I know how that title sounds. It sounds like an excuse. It sounds like the kind of thing someone says to justify bad behavior, to wrap cruelty in psychology and hand it back to you as an explanation you are supposed to feel better about. I want to be clear from the start. It is not an excuse. What I am about to describe is real, and it is also genuinely damaging to the people on the receiving end of it. Both of those things are true at the same time. But I think you deserve to understand what is actually happening, not so you accept it, not so you stay, but so you stop internalizing it as something that says anything true about your worth, because it does not. Here is the truth that took me years to see clearly in myself. When someone did not matter much to me, I was easy to be around. Warm, attentive, consistent enough. There was no internal friction, no fear running underneath the surface. I could show up because nothing real was at stake, but when someone started to truly matter, something changed. Not in how I felt about them, in how frightened I became of how I felt about them. And that fear did not make me warmer. It did not make me more present, or more loving, or more capable of giving them what they deserved. It made me difficult. It made me critical. It made me withdraw at exactly the moments when they needed me most. It made me pick fights over nothing because conflict was easier to manage than vulnerability. It made me cold in ways I could not fully explain, even to myself. The closer someone got to being truly important to me, the more my nervous system treated them like a threat. Think about what that means for a moment. The person you love most becomes the person you are least safe with. Not because of anything they did, but because the size of what you feel for them is directly proportional to the size of what you stand to lose. And your entire internal system, built in childhood to protect you from the pain of emotional loss, goes to war against the very thing it is supposed to be protecting. It is one of the most self-destructive patterns a human being can carry, and most avoidants carry it for years without ever understanding that is what is happening. I remember with Claire, in the months before we ended, I became someone I genuinely did not recognize. I was irritable about things that had never bothered me before. I found reasons to be frustrated. I created distance out of nothing, out of a Tuesday evening where everything was fine, and somehow I still managed to make it feel tense. I was critical in small ways that I told myself were honest, but were actually just fear wearing the costume of feedback. She had done nothing wrong. She had become too important, and that importance felt like standing on the edge of something I could not survive falling from. So I pushed her back from the edge with me, repeatedly, in ways that confused her and shamed me, and slowly eroded the very thing I was most afraid of losing. That is the pattern. And if you are on the receiving end of it right now, if you have noticed that things seemed easier when they mattered less, and harder as you got closer, if you feel like you are somehow being punished for being loved by this person, you are not imagining it. But here is what I need you to understand above everything else. Their fear is not your fault, but it is also not your problem to solve. You cannot love someone into feeling safe. You cannot be consistent enough, patient enough, understanding enough to reach inside another person's nervous system and rewire what their childhood built. That is not a limitation of your love. That is simply not how it works. The only person who can interrupt this pattern is the avoidant themselves. Through awareness, through an honest reckoning with where the pattern came from and what it is costing them, through the willingness to sit with discomfort instead of manufacturing distance to escape it. And some avoidants do that work. I did, eventually. Too late for some of the people I cared about most. But I did it. The question you have to ask yourself is not whether they are capable of change. The question is whether they are choosing it. Not someday, not in theory, now. Because you do not have to wait at the edge of someone else's fear indefinitely. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to decide that being loved badly by someone who feels a lot is not the same as being loved well.